Welcome to another session of this course. And in the last session, we just talked about some basics. And in this session, we are going to be going into simultaneous equation, quadratic and cubic equation. So in this class, we are going to be starting from the first, which is called simultaneous equation. It's called simultaneous equation. So first of all, let us define a simultaneous equation. Simultaneous equation. So what is a simultaneous equation? A simultaneous equation is a pair of equation. You know that a pair means two, right? So which means that this equation contains two variables that are unknown. In the former class, we talked about only one variable that is unknown, that is x. But in this type of equation, you are to solve for two unknowns, right? And the highest degree, are we getting it now? For a simultaneous linear equation, we are talking about simultaneous linear equation right now. The highest degree for a simultaneous linear equation is 1, which means that for a simultaneous linear equation, you don't have something like square. But in a simultaneous quadratic equation, you can have square. We will get to that later. So how does a simultaneous equation look like? For example, we have x plus y equal to 0. This is a simultaneous equation. Why? Because there are two unknowns. We don't know the value of x. We don't know the value of y. But how do we solve for this equation? First of all, a simultaneous equation must be 2, which means that you can't solve for this now because we just have one equation 1 here, and you can't solve with this only because there are 2. So to solve for a simultaneous equation, you must have two set of equations. For example, we have x plus y equal to 0 and x plus 2 equal to 0. Yes, so from this we now have equation 1 and equation 2, right? So this is the standard of simultaneous equation. Since it is two unknowns and the set of equations are two sets, that means that we can apply some basic rules in this equation and solve them properly. Now, how can we solve simultaneous equation? What are the rules that we apply? In solving simultaneous equation, there are two things you need to understand. In solving simultaneous equation, there are two things you need to understand. First of all, the first thing you need to know are the method, right? And those are the two methods you need to understand. The first method here is called substitution method, and the second method, first method, is substitution method. And the second method is elimination method. So you may ask, which method should I use? Is it substitution or elimination? Knowing the two is very important because there are some set of equations whereby you need to use both substitution and elimination, and that is what we are going to be using in the coming lectures. But first of all, let us break them one by one and understand how they are being done. Substitution method. How do we use substitution method? That is the first one. Substitution method means to make one of the unknown, are we getting it, the subject of the relation in one equation, and then substitute the value in another equation. Then when you substitute the value in another equation, the other equation now becomes one unknown. This example will make it clear. For example, we have something like x plus y equal to 0, then x minus y equal to 1. What you do first of all is either using equation 1 or equation 2, right? So first of all, you make one of those variables, either x or y, the subject of the equation. And note, when you are making x the subject of the equation, it means that you are going to get y first. And if you are making y the subject of the equation, it means that you are going to get s first. So first of all, let us make x the subject of the equation. So that means from here, x becomes, we know y we go to this side, becomes what? Minus y, right? Now, x is equals to minus y from equation 1. We substitute the value for x in equation 2, right? So that this place is now replaced with minus y. So there becomes minus y. And we have minus y here equal to what? Equal to 0, right? So that means that it implies that minus 2y is equal to 0. And if we make y the subject of the formula, y becomes 0 over minus 2. And y becomes what? Equal to 0. So we discover that we have been able to reduce the second equation into one unknown by substituting the value of x in the from the first equation, right? Now, since x is equal to 0, since y is equal to 0, how do we now solve for x? It's very easy. As you have gotten the answer for one of the unknowns, what do? You look at the simultaneous equation. Are we getting it now? It's either you look at the first one, so either you look at the first one or you look at the second one. Which one will be easy for you? So you substitute the value of y you have gotten, the numerical value. It must be a number, not an x, because you have already substituted an alphabet from the first one. So the second one, it must be a numerical number, and we have gotten a numerical value as 0. So we put 0 in one of these equations. Let us work with equation 2. We can also work with equation 1. It becomes x. Instead of we to put y now, we have gotten y, right? It becomes what? 0 equal to what? 0, right? So this is equal to minus 0. Minus 0 is the same thing as 0, right? So that means x is equal, y is equal to what? 0. So let us check. To check it, you put the value. To check if you are correct, from equation 1, x plus y is equal to 0, right? And we have x to be 0 and y to be 0. 0 plus 0 is what? 0. That means we are correct. In equation 2, x minus y is equal to 0. So if you put 0 here and put 0 here, 0 minus 0 is also equal to what? 0. Now let us check some examples before we begin to go. Okay, so in this example we have x plus 2y equal to 0 and x plus y is equal to 1. So what do I do? First of all, I name this equation 1, right? And I name this equation 2. So in equation 1, this is equation 1, I bring equation 1 out. I have x plus 2y to be equal to 0. So I make s the subject of formula here. So x will now be equal to, when 2y is going to the other side, we know that it becomes minus, right? Because it is changing from one side of the equation to another. So this becomes minus what? 2y. Now, since this is minus 2y in equation 1, we substitute minus 2y because we know that x is equal to minus 2y, right? So which means that anywhere we see x in equation 2, we put minus 2y there. So it becomes minus 2y. This place now, tell me to put x, it's now minus 2y, right? Then the plus, I write down the plus, then there is y here. Y is equal to what? 1, right? And in this is true, minus 2y plus y. Minus 2 plus 1 is what? Minus 1. So you become minus y is equal to what? 1, right? So we remove this minus from this side and we divide through by. Note, when this minus is crossing to this side, it is not plus, and the reason is because minus y is the same thing as saying that minus 1, are we getting it now? Minus 1 times y. So minus 1 times y is the same thing as what? Minus y, right? So when we are making y the subject of formula here, it's just like we are dividing. Are we getting it now? It's just like we are dividing. Sorry. Okay. So when we have minus y and want to make y stand alone, it's just like we are dividing both sides by minus 1, right? So we have minus y equal to 1, right? So when we make y subject of formula, it becomes 1 over minus 1, right? So that becomes y is equal to minus 1. Alright, so using substitution, for x plus 2y equal to 0, x plus y equal to 1. What do we do? How do we do this? First of all, we make x or make y the subject of formula in any of the equation. We can use equation 2 and substitute in equation 1. We can use equation 1 and substitute in equation 2. Using equation 2 will look easier for us, so let us use equation 2. And equation 2, let us choose to use y this time. We have been using s before, but note that when you are using y, we get x first, and when you are using x, we get y first. So in an exam question where you see something like this and they say find the value of y, when you are using elimination, do not make y the subject of formula because it will waste your time. First of all, just go and make x the subject of formula, because you know that when you are making s the subject of formula, the first thing you get first is what? Y. So in this case we have to find the two, so we either make one before the other or make the other, so anyone. So from here y becomes 1 minus x, right? So 1 minus x here, we substitute it in equation 2. So equation 1 is 4x, sorry, plus 2 1 minus x, right, equal to 0. So we open the bracket here, we have 4 plus, and 2 times 1 is what? 2, right? 2 times x is what? Minus 2x equal to 0. We did collect it like terms, we bring numbers to numbers and letters to letters. So 4x will be grouped with 2x, right? So that means 4x minus 2x plus 2 is equal to what? 0. Is that true? So 4x minus 2x is the same thing as what? 2x plus 2 equal to 0, right? And then we bring this one to this side. We have something like, let me clean this side, both. So when we bring 2 to the other side, what we have here becomes 2x is equal to 1 plus 2 go to the other side, become minus 2. So make x the subject of formula, divide both sides by 2, that's minus 2 over 2, and x is equal to what? Minus 1. Right? Okay, so from here x is equal to minus 1. We make if x is equal to minus 1, how do we look for y? To look for y, we substitute minus 1 in any of the equation, right? We substitute minus 1 in any of the equation. For my equation here was 4x plus 2y is equal to 0, and x plus y, getting it, is equal to 1. So we now have x as minus 1 here, so we now put minus 1 plus y to be equal to 1, right? So y will be, when minus 1 changes to this side, it become what? Become plus. So y will be 1 plus 1, that is equal to 2. So x is equal to minus 1 and y is equal to 2. Thank you very much. In the next class we'll be talking about elimination method, And after elimination method, we'll talk about how to bring the two together, consider some work problems, and next we go to quadratic equation. God bless.